Welcome to The Reflective Leader. I'm Tony Marchese, and with me is Doug Walters, and it's good to be back here doing our program, Doug.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you, Tony. It's nice to be back on air.
And today we are going to have a conversation. We're going to start a conversation that we've actually been having for about 10 years now.
Right.
And I became exposed to some of these concepts about 14 years ago initially, and I haven't become bored at all with them, and continue to find some of these ideas very intriguing and stimulating to talk about, and I know you feel the same way.
Sure do.
Today our program is called Capitalizing on Personal Assets for Maximum Impact, and there's a lot to that title, and there's absolutely no way that we will get through this in one program, and that's okay.
Right.
We will we'll get as far as we can today, and we will pick this up next month with some more. I'd like to start with a story, Doug, that you and I have talked about before, and it's a story of a little girl named Jillian. Jillian, in the 1930s, was around 8 years old at this time that we're going to talk about, and she was in the public school, and Jillian was getting in so much trouble. She was reprimanded constantly for being a disruption in class. She was always daydreaming. She would be her parents would be contacted regularly because she wasn't learning, she wasn't advancing the way she needed to, and the teachers and the principal were kind of fed up with her. And one day, the mother of Jillian took her to meet with a doctor, and in this case, it was a psychiatrist. And he was observing Jillian as he was asking her mother questions. And after a while, he said, "Ma'am," to the mother, "let's step out in the hall for a minute. I want to talk with you." And he left Jillian in the big leather chair where she was sitting. And as he walked out with Jillian's mother, he flipped on a record player. And some music began to play, and they walked out of the office and closed the door. And the door had a window, and after a few seconds, the doctor said to Jillian's mother, look in the door, and they saw Jillian moving to the music. And he said, "Ma'am," he said, "your daughter's not sick. Your daughter is a dancer." And Jillian Lynn, that's her full name, she ended up becoming one of the most famous choreographers of all time. I know, Doug, you've probably heard of the production Cats.
Sure do.
Or Phantom of the Opera. Well, Jillian, she was the key choreographer for those initial productions when they happened. And she went on to have a very, very successful career. And I say the story, I talk about the story because I think that it really sets the tone for our upcoming conversations today and in the future. When you hear this, what comes to mind? You've been an educator, you've worked in organizational leadership and development for many years. You've been a part of boards for various community organizations and international organizations. Is this story unique?
No. I think, Tony, one of the things that Jillian's story relates is that in many, many cases we have pigeonholed individuals to be certain behaviors and certain tendencies and ways to do things. And schools don't necessarily get it right all the time. And one of the things that we know is that we have multiple intelligences, and each of us find sort of our place within the framework of the school day based upon how we learn. And so this is an example of what happens not only, I think, in schools with many students, if not all. It also happens in our workplace. It happens within organizations. It happens within businesses. And so I always like to say, hey, look, what we've got to do is that we've got to go back and find out who our people are. What capital human resources do we have in a way that we can better utilize them. And I think that we're going to be talking at length about strengths and what that means and how does it manifest itself in any organization, in the workplace, in the community, and definitely within school.
You mentioned human resources, and I think about one of the programs I'm completing right now at UCLA in human resources management, and it's been very interesting for me to trace the evolution of human resources management over the past several years, over the past 50 years even, and to see how it's moved from more of a compliance-oriented department within companies to one that really wants to identify, celebrate, develop, and strategically implement talent in organizations. It's really shifted a lot.
Right, and you know, with our work and the work that we've done for a great number of years, and both within our own vocational sphere, we know that job fit within the organization based upon one's strengths and styles and emotional intelligence are key to ultimate success. And I think what we're going to be trying to convey today and over the next couple of programs is developing an understanding within the concept of organizational structures, whether they're profit, nonprofit, they're governmental or institutional.
Let's talk about some of our prevailing presuppositions that I think will guide our conversation today. One is that we exist within a deficits-based culture. And a long time ago, I came to this realization, and something just clicked. And then I would look around, and it seemed like everywhere I was looking, I was seeing this stuff. You know, whether we turn on the television, we open up a newspaper, we read a magazine, regardless of where we're looking, it seems as though we're being reminded that who we are in our present state is inadequate, that we are we have a deficit of something. We need to compensate.
To be fixed.
We need to be fixed. We need to compensate for our weaknesses. We need to correspond to the latest trends of societal acceptability or normalcy. And so many Americans, many people in this world, in fact, find themselves in a cycle that does not end of constantly deconstructing themselves in whatever current state they're in and reconstructing themselves to correspond to whatever those new standards or trends are. And I think that it's really permeated identity, the identity of humans. And I think that while we definitely have problems, we definitely all have deficits, this preoccupation with it has become an obsession.
Well, you know, both of us in our work life, mine covering a couple of more decades than yours, has always been in a way of trying to figure out how to reinvent ourselves, fix ourselves, make ourselves malleable. How do we morph, you know, into this new role because everything around us is changing. And of course, both of us believe in change, and we consider ourselves change agents. But when it's approached from a deficit standpoint, it's sort of like, you know, we're always a work, not in progress, but a work that needs to be fixed, having said that previously. And I think that one of the things that we would want to point out is that that's not necessarily a healthy way to approach one's individuality. It's not the way to approach it from an organizational sustainability standpoint either.
No, and I think if you look at just academic disciplines in general, you know, for example, psychology, education, religion, you know, many academic disciplines at their core really do spend a lot of time looking at human deficits. And our obsession with overcoming our weaknesses, you know, diminishes the likelihood of us ever finding, coming to a meaningful awareness of our assets, or in this case, our strengths. And I think that a lot of people find themselves professionally, you know, in careers where, for whatever reason, they fit themselves into a particular slot, and they find themselves unhappy later in life. They find themselves, you know, thinking, you know, why did I do this? You know, why did I choose this path? And I want to make a change, but maybe I don't really know how.
Right.